right, what's up, y'all? What's up? What's up? Welcome. Gonna go ahead and get this stream started. It's your boy T Word. I know it's kind of last minute when I put the announcement out, so I'm gonna hit up some people, see who feels like joining to chop it up a little bit. Um, Planning to do 30 minutes. If a few people join or whatever and get into the conversation, we'll go a little bit longer, up to an hour. I'll probably get a good hour in with y'all if that's cool. But we're gonna talk a little bit of sports. Um, Start off with a little bit of football. We do have Thursday night football tonight. I haven't had a chance to give my feedback on what happened with Deshaun Watson in his season debut. We didn't really cover that, and I'm gonna talk about the New Orleans Saints. I mean, myself, I personally watch the NFL shows and all the talk shows and all that good stuff. Specifically, Undisputed with Skip and Shannon, and they talk about the Cowboys all the time. So I've made it a point to try not to talk about the Saints too much, but at the end of the day, it is my favorite team. So obviously, I pay more attention and things like that. So we'll probably talk about them a little bit. And I'm just going to give my thoughts on where the season is right now. So I think the first thing I want to talk about is how so the New Orleans Saints are having a really rough season right now, right? So Dennis Allen is he's just not having a good time. He's taking over for Sean Payton on the team that won 9 games last year. And a lot of people felt like the reason that the Saints weren't successful in 2021 is because of injuries. But when you look at the core of the team, it was a little bit more than that. In the previous years, and you go back to 2017, 18, 19, and 20, the Saints were one of the deepest teams in the NFL. And what ended up happening is through attrition over the years, when you have good players, you lose good players. The salary cap doesn't match your talent if you're not consistently restocking the shelves with talented players on rookie contracts, especially late round picks like you get 2 or 3 dudes in the third round. Here's the draft that kind of kicked it off for the Saints. First of all, in 2016, they drafted Michael Thomas and they got Sheldon Rankins. Rankins didn't play that much, and Michael Thomas outplayed his rookie contract. Um, Mike Mike had just about 1,000 yards his rookie year, a bunch of catches. He was showing that he was a guy, and it was a crowded receiver room. You had Brandon Cooks his rookie year, and you had Willie Snead, who was coming off a really good year as a slot guy. So when you start to put all the pieces of the puzzle together, you realize like, okay, this is going to be something good. This team is going to get better. It's just going to take a little bit more time. You know what I mean? And it did. It took some time to get there, but once everything got in order, you saw that the Saints were starting to get on the roll. And then 2017 rolls around, and they have the best draft in the Saints' history. They picked up Alvin Kamara. They picked up Alex Anzalone. They got Marshawn Lattimore. They got Ryan Ramczyk. I mean, just the first 4 or 5 picks of that draft were just ridiculously good. So the Saints go on a nice little run of 2017, 18, 19, and 20. They make the playoffs. They have one of the best records in the NFL under Sean Payton. And then 2021 rolls around, and like the bottom falls out. Michael Thomas is hurt. Alvin Kamara has little fits and spurts in the season, and the team just isn't as good. They've lost Trey Hendrickson. You just start to see skilled players and very talented players just leave the team, and then all of a sudden, this team finishes with 9 wins because when people get hurt, they don't have that next man up that could come in and play really well. So, long story short, the Saints are in struggle mode, and then Sean Payton retires after 2021. So then you get Dennis Allen in the house, and man, I don't know. The way my mindset when the season got ready to start was this: Dennis Allen was going to come in and be like Barry Switzer, and you just guide the championship ship. You just guide it. You don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to be great. You just got to be good and consistent and just keep the ball rolling, right? Excuse me. Um, that just hasn't happened. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. I thought he was set up in a bad situation when he took over the Raiders years ago, but he wasn't put in a bad situation in New Orleans. He wasn't put in an ideal situation, but it wasn't bad. Sean Payton left plenty in the cupboard. He's got a great front office. He had plenty of picks in the draft, and they did a little something with it. Chris Olave's going to be a star. Alante Taylor's going to be a star. So they did good with that. But when you pull the curtain back more, you realize like Dennis Allen he don't have he's not giving head coach. You feel me? Um, this dude makes a lot of bad decisions as far as like the quarterback situation, playing Jameis when he was hurt, and then now that he's healthy, he's sticking with Andy Dalton. It's just like things need to get better, but they won't get better this year. The Saints are going to be in this boat, I think, for the duration of 2022. And if they're smart, just bite the bullet for 2023. Let it be bad because we don't have a first round pick in this spring coming up. So let it be terrible. Go ahead, let the bottom fall out. Do evaluation of your roster and the star players and see who has the best value that can is probably not going to help you for much longer, but other teams may covet them more. Go ahead and get some back, get some picks or something like that, and stock your cupboard for 2024. So when 2023 goes by, you get that high top 10 draft pick, you go ahead and take that, and you go into the next draft picking in the top 10, and you're probably going to get some other people's picks, and these may not be the most desirable picks because you're going to probably be trading with contenders who are going to finish in that bottom 10 picks or bottom 12. Either way, you can parlay those into higher picks. Maybe you get a couple of first rounders somehow for like an Alvin Kamara or something like that. And then you go ahead and move up in the draft and you get two first rounders and you try to pull a 2017 all over again. A lot of that front office group is still in New Orleans. So that means that the ability to pick players is still there. I mean, some people might feel like they gave up a little bit too much to get Chris Olave, but I think it was a good move. I mean, he's proven to be the best rookie receiver in the league this year. So looks like it's working. And he's had inconsistent quarterback play and he's doing this. So imagine when they finally get that quarterback they need in a couple of years. He's going to be seasoned. He's going to understand the offense. So he's going to make that quarterback's job a lot easier. I think next year they just need to try and piecemeal a team, figure out what they can do, and just kind of keep it going from there. So that's kind of like my rant about the Saints. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on them. They are my favorite team, and I just don't want to give those homer vibes. So let's go ahead and talk about Deshaun Watson a little bit. I didn't want to dedicate a singular video to this because we've already done one, and I just don't want to be the dead horse. But let's go ahead and take a look at his stat line and his return back to the NFL. I can tell you this. I got him in fantasy football, and he only got me 6 points, but he was on my bench. So I'm okay with it. Let's go ahead and take a look at these stats. So he got 131 yards. He threw one interception, and he had a 53.4 QB rating. I believe he also had 21 yards rushing on 3 carries. So he did his norm. He's a dual threat quarterback, mostly a passer though, to be honest. But he does run the ball a little bit. So he went 12 for 22, 54% completion, 53.4 passer rating, and he rushed for 21 yards on 7 carries, so only 3 yards a carry. He did play the entire game at quarterback except for 2 snaps. So it is what it is, man. It's really nothing you can do when you're just getting back. He's basically been out nearly 2 seasons. I mean, he missed like the first 12 games of this year, and then he missed all the games last year. So you're looking at like 20 something games missed, about 27, 29 games missed. So you're going to be rusty when you sit out that long. Think about when Michael Vick came back, even in his small role, he was rusty and it took him a while to ramp up. Pretty much expecting the same thing with Deshaun Watson. I think probably by the last couple games of the season, he'll get acclimated to throwing to his receivers and some good things will be happening for him. So that'd be great. Let's see, coming up. They will be facing. You can never find what you need when you need it. All right, let's see. So they just played Houston. And let's look at the Browns schedule. All right. Cleveland Browns schedule. All right, so the Browns and the Bengals are going to tangle on December 11th at noon Central Time. So that's going to be an AFC North showdown. So playoff implications there. The Bengals are starting to get it together, playing some good football. They just beat the Chiefs. So we'll see how that goes. The standings in the AFC North right now. We've got the Ravens at 8-4, the Bengals at 8-4, the Browns at 5-7, and the Steelers at 5-7. What's funny is because there's a lot of division games down the stretch, all of these teams are still in the hunt for their division crown. So that's going to be some interesting football to play out towards the end of this year over the last few weeks, starting with Sunday's game between the Browns and the Bengals. Now, the Bengals defense does give up some passing yards, and I think this is another opportunity. If he can avoid the pass rush that Deshaun Watson is going to have to stamp himself as the actual right decision to be the Cleveland quarterback, and things will be good to go from there. All right, so I'm going to take a couple seconds here to send out a couple little tweet invites to some people to see who wants to join the panel or just tap in and talk a little bit of boxing or whatever, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Brittney Griner being released in exchange for Victor Bout. Um, he's a arms dealer. I'm not gonna say his nickname on the air, but he's a merchant of it. So we're gonna see how that plays out. See if anybody wants to tap in and have a little chat about it. Let's see. All right, so far so quiet in the chat. Okay, so this weekend we got some good boxing. I do have a video coming up that's going to highlight Terrence Crawford and David Avenesian, as well as some comments by Tank Davis. But something I want to talk about live while we're on the air is I want to talk about Terrence Crawford interview on the Boxing Voice. So um, he remote into the Boxing Voice, and Ness and Danny had a conversation with him about partially about his upcoming fight, but they also discussed a few things boxing related, specifically his plans with Errol Spence. Now, this is what kind of sucks, right? He has a fight with a boxer who's on a knockout streak, 6 fight knockout streak. So he's going on interviews and nobody's talking about the fact that this dude been KOing people. They're talking about the failed negotiations with Errol Spence. And while all boxing fans want to know what the hell happened, I think it's a little disrespectful that nobody's really talking about David Avenesian and what that fight's going to be. I'm probably guilty of it too because I haven't covered it that much, but I can say that I have interest in how it's going to play out. And a person that has a nice little KO streak is going to come in with confidence, and it's a good chance that they feel like they have a puncher's chance and they're going to do what they can to try and win the fight. That being said, I just feel like a lot of people aren't covering it as much as it could be, and we're 2 days out from the fight, right? But on the flip side, this interview with the Boxing Voice, they start to talk about a lot of the behind the scenes stuff with Crawford, and some of it was about why some of it was about why he went with BLK Prime, and then what his plans were. Like, was he going to spin the block and come back to Spence to try to renegotiate? And did he feel like there was a good opportunity to renegotiate or reopen negotiations after this fight was done, especially if Errol Spence isn't busy? And as of right now, he has no fight schedule. So at best, we might see Errol Spence in the ring in February against Keith Thurman. But in regards to Crawford, he kind of addressed that he doesn't really need to fight, but he's willing to fight him. But then they also talked to him about um, whether or not he will fight Jerron Boots Ennis. And the way that he answered was just a little sketchy. He kind of was like, well, these other dudes who were on the same network as him or had better access to him didn't fight him. But he also kind of backdoored and blamed his promoter and said he felt like the management team, Cameron Duncan, they were moving Boots a certain way to not necessarily protect him, but definitely, I guess, align him to have a lot of different options at this point in his career. And by all accounts, it's worked. He's highly ranked in IBF, WBC, WBA, and the WBO. And not a lot of people are in the top five in all five ranking systems. But if you look around, Jerron Boots in this is top five or top three in all of them. So they're doing something right. His win loss record is a little bloated. I mean, he's at 28-0 at like 25 years old. So that's a lot of fights. When you think about Errol Spence is at 28 fights and he's 32 years old. So this guy's 8 years older or 7 years older, but yet they've got the same amount of fights. and yet Errol has had 3 title fights. Well, he's won 3 belts. So you start to look at just how they were moving boots, and you can raise some questions. But the way that Crawford answered made it sound like he has no desire to fight him. And I don't think it's an out of fear thing. I think he's just not interested in fighting somebody that doesn't have a belt. So he kind of just circled around the question, and he was really trying to brush it off, and they didn't really press that particular issue as much because they were more concerned with another comment he made about wanting to fight overseas in the UK. So I did some basic math. Here's what Terrence had to say about it. um, he was saying that maybe him and Spence could go and fight in the UK because those fans support, they deserve a good fight, they're going to make some money, and I'm like, uh that's not how it works. The first thing is the UK, they charge differently for their broadcast and for their tickets. So I was talking to somebody, I was chatting with somebody in the comments on Twitter, I believe, and they were saying that tickets in the UK at different places you can get them for like $50, and like you're pretty close to ringside. So even if you say the average ticket is $50, I did a round figure of about 60,000 in attendance, and I don't think two American fighters will pull that in the UK. And you get 60K people in there at $50 a ticket. It comes out to about 3 million at the gate. Now you do this fight in like Vegas, and you get maybe 40,000 inside of Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play, and you put 40,000 in there at an average of, I went as low as 250 per ticket, and excuse me, 250 per ticket, and it came out to $10 million. So you can actually have 20,000 less in attendance and make more money off it. So his math was just a little fuzzy to me. It just didn't make sense. So it just kind of aligns with some of the other statements that he's made that makes me question if he needs somebody else to kind of help him out with either setting up the interviews or possibly just giving him true facts and not just telling him, yeah, champ, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. It's easy to get backed into a corner with people that will just, as long as you're winning, they're going to support you and they're going to just agree with what you say because you're the one cutting the checks. And I just hope that if he has those people around him, they'll move away or he'll move away from them and he'll start to see things a little bit differently. And the biggest thing is, man, he seems to have decided that he's going to pursue money more than legacy, and he's comfortable where his legacy is, being undisputed and undefeated. um it makes sense. You're where you want to be, you're where you need to be. But from a legacy standpoint, there's more that can be done, there's more that can be added to the puzzle, and I think that he really needs to add it to the puzzle, like beating Errol Spence, or at least fighting Errol Spence, maybe circling back, fighting a Keith Thurman, get somebody like that on the resume. Go up there and fight Jamel Charlo, Tony Harrison, or Brian Castano. Go fight Fundora. Go get somebody up there at 154 that's a challenger. Maybe catch Danny up there. You've already beat Jose Benavidez, so there's no need to retread those steps. And I don't think Jose's getting any better, so you can leave that right there. But I do believe that Bud really needs to put some people around him that get a little bit more about the business. I mean, he fired or him and Brian McIntyre, they're Bomac, they're still partnered in the training aspect, but he's no longer managing him. So, and I don't know what Bomac was doing from a business standpoint in terms of like brokering deals with Top Rank or whatever, but at a minimum, at least he encouraged him probably to get into a contract with some guarantees, because I think when you sit down and have conversations with your homeboy or your friend or your mate or whatever on a regular basis, you kind of know their limitations. My buddies know my limitations. Um, so I would expect that, being that he and Bomac have been friends and been around each other for quite some time, that he's also aware of Terrence's limitations as well. Um, and I think that that's probably why Bud ended up in those contracts with Top Rank for all that time, because it was like, okay, we don't need to be negotiating too often, especially on the fight by fight like some of these other people like Canelo does. Maybe we need to get in this long term contract, get some solid guarantees, and stick with it. So I think that's what happened. And now he's not doing that. He's just kind of like a hired gun. He's just looking for the best offer versus looking for like, he's just looking for the highest bidder versus looking for like a really good deal that's gonna financially secure him and also put him in some really good fights. I think he's just gonna take the highest number and not really worry about good fights right now. But that remains to be seen. It's just interesting that it's just interesting that he went to like a place like BLK, and then he's talking about fighting in the UK, and he was talking about these hedge fund investors and things like that, and you're just sitting there thinking like, uh, wait a minute, how are you trying to broker all these other deals, and all you got to do is go to the established promoter, tell them what you want, haggle a little bit, negotiate, and then pick a date. And it feels like they did that, but then he decided the date was too far out and he ran off. So I don't know, man. You could check out that interview of Bud on the Boxing Voice YouTube, and it's like a 30-minute interview, and they talk about a lot of different things, and specifically what he wants to do next after David Avanesian. And another interview where it's about 30 minutes long, and he spent about 2 to 3 minutes talking about his next fight and not as much. I did see that there's some promotion going on with the fight. They put up like a little press release where they're showing the media workouts and things like that. So it looks like David made it to the U.S. and we got to fight, folks. Today's Thursday, so maybe there'll be a weigh-in. Maybe we'll catch a weigh-in or something like that. But in the meantime, we just got to look forward to Saturday. So I got a few minutes left on here, so I'm going to switch gears and talk about Brittney Griner being released from the Russian prison in exchange for Victor Bout. He's a known weapons dealer, arms dealer, and they call him the Merchant. And he's responsible for a pretty high level stuff in like the Russian mob and stuff. And I don't know. I just I'm okay with her being I'm okay with her being released and the United States doing what was necessary to get her released, but the exchange doesn't seem equal. It feels like there could have been more that we received back. But at the end of the day, an American citizen, let's talk about that. An American citizen was released from captivity for what's basically not even a charge in the US. And I get it, when you're on foreign soil, you're subject to their rules. But somebody that committed some international crimes, some global crimes, is actually being exchanged for somebody who had a little weed on them. This just doesn't make sense to me that that's all we got back in exchange. But I'm happy that she's been released. And there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of commentary that's going on online right now from different people that's trying to make it about her choice of sexuality as well as her race. And that's not even the most important thing about it. We got an American back. I mean, does it have to be a war hero for it to be important that we got somebody back? Like, is what you've done the only measurement of your value, just what you're done, not your life itself? Because I feel like that's something that gets lost when we talk about value, especially in the media age where we play fantasy football, baseball, basketball, soccer, whatever, and everything's set with a value. This player's going to get 20 points this week for me. Doesn't matter if his team wins, I just need 30 from him. So we're setting these monetary or these numeric values on people, and now they've put a value on Brittney Griner that's outside of her actual life itself. And that's unfair, because whether she did something wrong or maybe she broke a rule that had nothing to do with nothing, we still should have been putting in whatever effort we can to get her back, and that's what was done. And I think it should be respected that it was done. If you think back to several years ago, one of the Ball kids, one of LeVar Ball's kids, was over there and got the shoplifting and all that, and had to get released. And the president at the time, he made some negotiations and he got him released. He made some calls, so he says, and some other people did some politicking, and they got him released. But the biggest thing about that was, um, it's just it's just an American at the end of the day, and America went on their behalf to negotiate. I think that's all that matters. America made a negotiation on behalf of one of our own to bring that person back. And this has more to do with, if everybody's talking about, pride in where you're from, be happy that you live here and all that good stuff, then it should be rooted in, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that everybody is able to be brought back that gets captured or gets taken into custody unnecessarily. And we're going to give them the same effort that we would give a LeBron or a war hero, because these are still our people. We still need to get them back. So for those who are going to watch this on the replay, hopefully you enjoyed the content. Sometimes I'll ramble here and there, but we just, want to chop it up, do a live stream. I do have some more videos coming out today, so feel free to be on the lookout for those. We're going to talk a little bit more about Coach Prime, and we're also going to talk about and review or preview the David Avenesian and Terrence Crawford fight coming up this weekend. So I thank y'all for y'all time on this live stream. For those who tuned in, for those who watching the replay, thanks for watching. Until the next time, this is T Word and I'm out. Peace.